Hi, and welcome back to episode 2 of Redefining Moments. My name is Kelly Meaden, and I'm so excited to have you here. As I've said in the first episode, this podcast is designed to help inspire you on your own empowerment journey, to take you into perceptions, ideas, and concepts of reality that you might not have considered, to move you outside of the box and get you considering how you can look at the world more differently, but how it can inspire you to move and take greater leaps in life. And the concept I want to bring to you today is what my friend once shared with me. So I cannot remember the Italian phrase, but in Italian, I believe there is a saying which says there is an ocean between theory and practice. And what this means is we can logically explain something, we can logically understand something, but it's the embodiment, it's the physical understanding, it's the knowing, the inner trust and the inner knowing. And I think that's something I want to bring to the surface with you, is when we're going through our own journeys, it's very easy to start to be logically aware. And I think for myself, I know this is something I wouldn't say struggle with, but I can often understand the theory. But when it comes to actually applying it to practice, actually experiencing it, actually embodying it, it has taken a very long time to get to this point. And I think sometimes it is easy to forget the little moments where I have embodied theory, when I have embodied this understanding. But I feel like I'm finally at a point in my life where I can truly say that I am embodying the practices that I have been working on for many years. But I believe that embodiment comes from relaxing into life. And I recently shared a post on Instagram which spoke about this concept of relaxing into love. So many of us talk about rising into love, or falling in love. Falling in love is kind of, I think, a concept that people are trying to move away from, because it suggests you're out of control, you're falling into something, you have there's like a rush, an urgency, a lack of control. Whereas rising into love, the concept behind it is, I guess, to consider growing into love, becoming your highest self, rising with someone. But for me, the problem with that statement is it also suggests that we are having to go from a place of lack to a place of fulfillment still. We're having to move from being something to being a better version of ourselves. Whereas relaxing into love, I feel, is embracing who you are in this moment, trusting that the answers will reveal themselves, trusting that the person you are getting to know or learning to love is who they are, who they need to be, and you are exactly who you need to be. And when we relax into that, we can notice the signs and the cues and the qualities that align with us, but we can also show up from a place of love and compassion and nurture them more and nurture ourselves more. Now, I would say this concept was something that I hadn't embodied. This concept was something that I generally was struggling with. I was frantically chasing love. I was frantically trying to make somebody love me, even though at the time it didn't feel like I was making them love me. I was just being myself and trying to earn, I guess, the love that I thought I so desperately needed and wanted. But what I'm now realizing, as much as I don't shame or deny that version of me, it wasn't actually helping me find love. If anything, it was causing me to push it away. And the beauty of this journey is I found that the attachment styles are an interesting concept. So when I was going through this journey, I started to explore my own approach to love. And I realized through this that often in situations I embody a anxious attachment, which means that I am chasing. I go panicky and anxious when someone's pulling away or not giving me the love that I need. And then I feel like I need to fill that gap with either more love or like requests or something that allows me to feel that love from that person. But then what I've realized recently actually is when I do have that connection, I then embody an avoidant attachment where I'm trying to protect myself from rejection and I start pushing away. And I am not these attachment styles. I need to make this very clear. I am not these attachment styles at all. And I think that's the problem with some of these labels is when people research them, they're like, well, I'm an anxious attachment. And we start to become that rather than actually learn from it. And the way to actually look at this is going, okay, this is a tool I can use. This allows me to understand myself more deeply. So when my anxious attachment is going off, it's like, okay, why am I feeling the need to fill in the gap here? Or why am I feeling frantic? Let's go deeper into this. Let's ask myself some questions and see what's going on. Even I've been using ChatGPT a lot recently to unload my observations and it reflects back to me what is happening. So if I was having a situation where I'm seeing an anxious response, and my self-awareness in this situation does really help, but if I'm seeing an anxious response, I'm like, okay, what is this telling me about my situation? I explain the situation, I explain my feelings, and it reassures me that I am exactly who I am. It's a human response. However, there are certain things that I'm potentially falling into as a result of it. But taking the time to actually understand what these moments are teaching me, what they're allowing me to understand about myself, are helping me embody a new way of being when it comes to relationships, a new way of understanding who I am in relationships and who I wish to be. So I would say it's really key to understanding that. But for me, it's been helping me understand how I can relax into love. So I am understanding two sides of myself. Who is the side of myself when I am authentically, unconditionally, and deeply in love? So that could be with friends, family, life, work, whatever it may be. But who am I when I am free to love? And when I don't feel like I need to receive love or chase love? And that version of me is relaxed. It's that relaxing into love. It's going out into the world and just doing things of kindness, love and joy and bringing a smile to people's faces just because that's what feels right for me in that moment. And being present in the moment, embracing the moment, understanding and the moment and how to be with somebody, like just not distracting, not trying to force a situation to go a certain way, but just enjoying the moment, whether that moment is silence or whether it's a deep conversation, whatever it may be. It's being present in that moment and responding to it. Whereas when I'm in the frantic love, when I'm experiencing the insecure side of attachments, it's the forcing, it's the chasing, it's the trying to make that person love me and thinking my coping strategy is trying not to be a burden or a disappointment. So how can I not be a disappointment to this person? So I'm trying to like figure out and manipulate myself around them to be, I'm walking around eggshells. That's what I realized. Every single relationship I was looking back on and going, why was I walking on eggshells with them? I said I wouldn't do that again, but I'm still doing it. And the core of it is I'm trying to manipulate myself to the situation to give them the space they need, or trying not to be too much, or trying to be enough. And it's this constant, like, delicate battle of reading cues and then responding. And it's frantic and it's exhausting. And actually, I stop being in love with myself. Like when I first start dating someone, I love who I am. I'm like, yes, I'm charismatic, I'm joyful, I'm excited, I'm playful, I'm flirtatious. Like, I enjoy the version of myself that I am. And then what happens is, as the relationship progresses, I become far more rigid and far more just uncomfortable in my own body, uncomfortable in my own skin. And that's a sign that I'm deep in the control. I'm trying to make the relationship go where I want it to go. So it's still work, it's still effort, but the person I'm trying to be now is the person who relaxes into love, who is not trying to be more than I need to be, but is just seeing themselves as enough and loving that person as they are as enough, and catching myself whenever I try to go down those routes. So it's sensing that shift and then breathing into it and going, hold on a second, is this who I want to be right now? But as I said, this isn't something that happened overnight. This is something that has taken moment to moment, experience to experience, relationship to relationship, or dating experience to dating experience, to understand within myself. But the beauty of putting ourselves out there and experiencing life and observing our patterns is that we can start to see where there is a pattern. We can start to see where things might or could be different. And we can also start to expose ourselves to what it means to truly be loved and what is it we're actually truly wanting. Because now I look back at, I guess, the past 10 years of relationships and being single, I realise a lot of it is within this idea of trying to control, and it definitely causes a lot of suffering and pressure that is actually not needed. So yeah, it's an interesting journey, and I am only starting to embody the idea of it now. I'm starting to experience the practice. I've been on my boat for a very long time, rowing, and I finally found my way to practice rather than theory. But it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to take years of figuring these things out. And it goes back again to making that choice to show up differently today, making that choice of, loving. And I didn't mean to go down the concept of love, but I think it's a very good example. But this can be the same for life. It can be the same for anything we do. It's relaxing into life. I think as a culture, as generations, we have learnt to force. We have learnt to make things happen in a way that is controlling life and forcing how life turns out. That can be how other people react or respond to us. That can be by trying to manipulate or control situations. And when I say manipulate and control situations, that doesn't have to be in a negative tone. That can be in like people pleasing, in people who, the way I describe it is people who are like, I call it martyr syndrome, and it's not that, but it's where you feel the need to constantly give to other people. And I describe it as like there's a puddle on the floor and you go, don't worry, I'll lie down for you so you don't have to get your feet wet. And then you're lying in the puddle, you're soaking wet, you're cold, and you're getting trodden on. And then you turn around to that person and go, why did you walk all over me? And it's like, because you let me. And that is a part of this. It's the part of trying to control others. Maybe if I do everything for them, they will love me. But actually, it ends up resulting in you feeling less loved because your boundaries are down. You're doing things that aren't kind to yourself. And it's not wrong. It's not right. It's just what it is. It's our safety mechanisms that we've learned to survive in life. It's often what we observe, especially as women, in other people. is this idea of giving to an extreme where you're not actually supporting your own foundational needs. I know myself that sometimes I can forget to eat and sleep because I get so worked up in other things, because it needs to be perfect before I can allow myself permission to focus on myself, even though some of the things are for myself. But it's understanding that we don't have to be that person anymore. We can make a decision to walk away from that idea. And don't get me wrong, it won't be easy, especially if you've been doing everything for everyone your whole entire life. You've created a structure and a system to keep you within that box. So it's going to be hard and challenging taking yourself outside of that. But you can start to make gradual choices towards choosing yourself and loving yourself and noticing these behaviours and things. And as I said, it doesn't have to be a right, I'm completely ripping the band-aid off, I'm jumping into the pit of despair, I'm going and hitting rock bottom, because that is where rock bottom comes in, because our whole reality has been pulled away from underneath us and we've hit rock bottom. And everything that's been secure in our life, every concept of our knowing and being has been taken away from us. So, or it's also hit our deepest wound as well. So where they're going, I don't know how to be, I don't know how to act, I don't know how to respond. And often in those situations, we can go back to what feels comfortable, even though we know it's not healthy for us. Because there's this desperation, there's this desire to find comfort and security again, but we don't have another reality to return to. So before we hit rock bottom, before the rug is pulled away from us, we can start to look at the clues in our life that show us where we might be self-sacrificing, that show us where we're living in a protective mechanism rather than relaxing into life. So also, don't worry, because when we start to explore these things, there are moments where you look at your life and you start to go, oh my God, is that how I've been living my life? Is that who I've been being my whole life? That's so sad. And recently I really pulled on one of those threads in my life where I was like, how has that been me my whole entire life? I was grieving that version of me because I felt sorry for her. I felt sad because she's not felt good enough, or she's not felt worthy to just be lovable and appreciated within herself. It's been a version of me who's been constantly trying to make things be a certain way, but within that I've been limiting myself as well, because I've been stopping myself from going further, going deeper, and being too much. But what I can say is, if you have the courage to sit in that discomfort, if you have the courage to explore yourself more deeply, you will not recognize yourself on the other side, and not in a negative way. This last week, I have felt so elated, so overjoyed, so excited and thrilled by life, because I've taken stances and challenged myself in a way that felt so painful at first. I was so sensitive to the world. I felt so uncomfortable by the version of myself that I was being. But through these observations, I was able to look at myself and go, oh wow, well, this is what I'm doing, so I want to do this instead. I want to make sure I stand up for myself. I want to make sure that I'm not playing small. And I'm able to take actions that are more aligned to myself. And with this, it's hard to put into words, but the level of love, the level of joy I'm able to experience in the world is expansive. And it's something that is really hard to put into words. Even taking the steps to do these podcast episodes, it's committing to yourself, as I said yesterday, I recorded yesterday, but in the first episode, is committing yourself to being consistent, and not consistent in a way that you have to do it every single day, but consistent in the building that trust with yourself, building that sense of, I said I was going to do this for myself and I'm doing it. Because how many of us allow our boundaries to be walked over? And our boundaries are our responsibility, but you set a boundary and then we blame the other person for going, well, you're not meeting my boundary, you're not listening to me, where actually you're not listening to them. You're not listening to their reaction and response to your boundary, and you are not taking the steps to respond to it, whether that's walking away, whether that's going, well, I'm not going to speak to you until we've resolved this. But at the end of the day, I think we force ourselves in so many situations where we expect the other person to change, but actually the reality is we need to choose what is right for us and whether we deserve to be in that situation, whether we should be in that situation. So there are multiple ways of doing this, and I hope that these episodes will hopefully draw some light into your life, allow you to understand that there are other ways of being, other ways of looking at the world, and you are not wrong in how you're living your life right now. You're exactly where you need to be. And funnily enough, I'm looking at a sign in my room that says, trust the process. You're exactly where you need to be. And I want to make that very clear to you. You are not wrong with where you are at in your life right now. You are exactly where you need to be. There are things and signs and clues where your life might not be where you want it to be. And that's okay, because you're exactly where you need to be. But your wants can spur you on in living a life that aligns for you. But remember, we can't change the world around us. We can't control the world around us. What we can do is take the steps to go deeper into ourselves, to understand ourselves, to give kindness to ourselves, and build that trust moment to moment. So if there is something that you need to set a boundary with, set a boundary with. And you might get it wrong. You might still be figuring it out. Like, trust me, it's taken me years to get better and clearer at setting boundaries, because quite often we can be like, but I told you my boundary. And the other person was like, well, you didn't. And it's because we probably weren't clear or explicit, or that person might not understand our boundaries because it's taking practice and it's taking time. But it's giving compassion to ourselves and those around us as we were figuring out our new world, as we were figuring out this side of ourselves where we are relaxing into life. And it is going to be stressful. It's not going to feel relaxing at times. But once you break through that moment, once you sit with the discomfort, you might find that space where you can relax, where you're not having to chase and force every moment, because life is exhausting when you're constantly chasing and forcing life to be where it needs to be. When we relax, we're able to take life more with ease and not pressure. So that's what I'm going to leave you with today. Knowing that you are exactly who you are meant to be, knowing that we can relax into love and life. And yes, there aren't particularly answers here in how to do it, but I hope with some of the continuing episodes that I'm able to offer you some solutions, some of my own stories and insights. But for now, I wish you a wonderful day of opportunities, curiosity, and hopefully a deeper awareness into who you are and who you're being in life. Until next time.